Dan Walkus.
Susan Stanish.
Corey Oxney.
Ron Sommer. Todd Ferguson.
John Bain.
Sarah Miller.
Neil Shaw, Board Liaison.
All right.
There you go. Is that on?
Yeah, there.
All right. So continuing down, looking at tonight, just going through the rough agenda, we have the open space and trails follow up from last month, and then just touching base on recreational programming, and then also looking at the work plan for next year, and then similar to last month, just looking at the park improvement opportunities that kind of rolls back into the site walk of the park today. And then whatever updates we may have, I don't know if we have any other updates, but go through that. So with that, we'll go to any other comments on the agenda that we want to change, modify, add. Good.
If I just want to make a quick comment about batting cages, again, we can do that during public comment.
Or we can identify during park improvement agenda.
All right.
Right?
No problem. Yep.
Perfect. All right. So with that, we'll roll into public comment. If you'd like to come up and state your name, and can't remember, is there a piece of paper over there? You don't have to fill it out right away, but if you could just put your name and information down there, that'd be great.
I'm Gladys Forshee, and I'm here to encourage you to come to Cookies with Veterans. We have 4 categories this year with 5 different divisions. And so all the committees will be in competition of each other. And so I'm hoping that you'll come. Arrowhead Awards has provided ribbons. So there'll be ribbons for the different categories. So I hope that you'll come.
Perfect.
When is it, Gladys?
November 11th at 11 a.m. at Asti Park. Yeah, the judges all picked out, and there's been quite a few comments about the competition, so hope you'll enter and come.
Perfect. Okay. Well, with no other public comment, we'll roll into just the Boulder County open space discussion and trails recommendation. So last month we touched base on, you have it all up there? Mm-hmm. Look at you. Let's do it one part at a time here.
They gotta hit the lights too since we're sitting there.
Yeah, you're the light control now. Okay. So first part, we want to touch base on open space and ranking the open space and putting forth a recommendation to Boulder County. So with open space, we have is it still just 3 properties? Looks like we have a few, so let's just go through the list. In previous years, we had CenturyLink property, which is the property up against 128th to the south. And I think we all know what that property is. So that one's one of the properties on the list. The next one on the list was Zaharias, and that's the right adjacent to 36. And then next on the list is still the Bulljack property, is I believe is the homestead, right? Verification, yeah. Reddit. Along McCaslin on the west side, the house property. Up and down, depending on where you start at.
Yes, south on McCaslin.
South of here.
Okay. And then the Rogers Farm property, I believe we can take that off as that's being developed currently, as was just south of the location we were at. So those are the 3 properties that we have. I guess the question would be is if there was, I don't believe there was any other, there was a couple other identified parcels within certain locations that could be purchased that we had talked about, but these were the main 3 that have been on the list for a while now.
Right.
And
these are the big 3, because the other properties are the ones behind Target, What do we call those lists?
To the west side of Target. I don't remember what the name was.
You had a good term for it, Allison. I can't remember what you called it. It's by the storage.
76th Street parcels?
Parcels, yep, that's it, yeah. But that wouldn't be a Boulder County scenario. So
Very true.
we would not do a joint venture. We would just hopefully do it on our own.
I could also read to you guys, since we're supposed to work together with OSAC on this, their notes from the 9th. They said, for next year, remove Shan Shan Trail request, McCaslin to Meadowlark Trail request, and Indiana to Calmonte Trail request.
Those are trails.
Right, and then potentially reword connection request to Mayhofer Singletree and remove Rogers Farm property acquisition request. And then they have replaced Rogers with 3rd Avenue 919 property in 4th Ring.
3rd Avenue. Okay. So like right over here somewhere. Okay. Well, I guess with the information about trails, we'll come back to that. I would like to just put forth one recommendation of the open space first, make sure we're all on that, and then the next recommendation being for the trails, and break it out into 2 if possible, just for ease of distinction of differences. But with that, I mean, it comes down to these 3 properties have been on the list for a while. I think that the CenturyLink and Zaharias are the 2 hot properties that have been discussed to purchase and acquire for open space in Boulder County. And the 3rd one is the Bulljack, the property up on the hill, which I think is also very important. So we continue to put them forth to Boulder County, and I don't know, I feel that it should just be another recommendation for these 3 properties. I don't know if there's not really a ranking. Well, I mean, they are in a ranking order, but from a monetary, it's just a matter of which one they would go for and work with us on. Right? So.
I think that the Bulljack would be the lowest priority of those 3. So I think there's some ranking maybe.
I agree.
So let's start with, does anyone think that there's a different ranking than we have currently? So saying CenturyLink 1, Zaharias 2, and Bulljack 3.
No.
Okay, so I don't know. I'm just gonna say it.
We can do all as one.
Yeah, if we write up a recommendation to just say we recommend, I don't know, is it purchase of or working with Boulder County to acquire? I don't know. There's probably some wording in here.
Or for the annual Boulder County open space request. PROSTAC recommends.
PROSTAC recommends CenturyLink as just in order, 1, 2, 3. CenturyLink.
The 3
Zaharias.
Yeah, these 3, yeah.
Yeah. So there you go.
And so is this a motion or?
I haven't quite got to that. I'm seeing what we can muster up before we kind of.
Well,
There's nothing, I mean, it is what it is.
I know, that's why I'm like.
It's the same, well, now that Rogers is gone, it's the same 4 properties we've been talking about forever, so.
So for us new folks, can you
Sure.
sort of explain the process, right? I mean, is this something that is likely to happen, doesn't happen? Do all the towns around Boulder County request this kind of stuff? And
You want to go ahead?
Yeah, every town in Boulder County puts together their list to Boulder County as part of a joint venture. It's more like we want to partner with you guys, and any interest in partnering with us, like for Shan Shan, that's a complete partnership. That's not that trailhead they're building up there is not superior, it's a combination. So what we do every year is we send a list of the 3 or the 4 thing. Usually it's just 3 or 4 properties that we think would be
For open space.
for open space that we would like to work with Boulder County for purchase.
Because the next step is to talk about the trails that are in the open space and what those linkages are.
So and there was one year where we didn't even get a response. When they had the floods, there was no responses, there was no money. It was like 2 years, and they were like, okay, we finally got a response. And you can see on here the comments, that's their response for CenturyLink. And if you scroll down, you'll see
Yeah, it's right here.
And is kind of the assumption that if these don't get set aside for open space, they'll be developed sooner or later?
There's always that potential because it's a private landowner that until somebody buys it as open space and restricts it to just open space, there's always the potential in the future. Right? So that's where at the bottom here, Boulder County is willing to discuss it and, consider partnering on it, but it's got to be feasible and funding is available. So it all comes down to what type of funding does Boulder County have for open space and which one's on their priority list, because this may be number 1 on ours, but it may be number 20 overall for them, or whatever.
There's no presumption that the landowners want to sell or anything like that.
Nope.
Right?
So we turn in our 3 recommendations, then Boulder County Open Space meets, and they go over all the recommendations from all the towns and say, and then they send hopefully annually send a response saying, we would really like to look at purchasing something, or, or these kind of generic responses is pretty standard here.
See, but like number 1, we've stated, CenturyLink is an important property for us, and Boulder County has said they're willing to talk about that one and they're behind it, right? Mm-hmm. But the Zaharias, they look at it and they say, well, it's within the town of Superior. It's been annexed. Boulder County has no acquisition plans in this area, but if they want to discuss it, they're willing to partner with us. But they added a little bit more that's, it may not even be on their list of any importance. But it's still an important area for us, whether that becomes developed or if we could maintain it for open space.
And on the board level, we took as one of our goals, and I can't read it from here, acquisition of the CenturyLink property is one of our top goals this year, at least to progress that. That's bring as many people into that as possible. For the longest time, CenturyLink didn't even answer the phone when we expressed any interest in the property, and I think this past 9 months, I'm not exactly sure what finally got them interested. It could be Highlands. It could
Drilling.
be, in fact, yeah, exactly. Highlands wanting to drill on the land that they own without, CenturyLink having any say, I think woke them up. So at least having a conversation now, and it's taking time. So that remains, front and center for the board. Zaharias, there is an application somewhere in the town's planning process for development. I don't know exactly where we're at in that process. I don't think it's gone to the planning commission yet. But again, that too, if the owner expresses a desire to potentially sell it, then we can go down the path. But right now it's zoned commercial.
And this for you, this is a huge document here. This is the whole thing, right? Yeah, I mean, this has got every town's record. You can share it.
Yeah.
Email it if you guys want a copy of it. It shows you every town, and then the responses from Boulder County.
But also as an example, I mean, the last recommendation here was Rogers Farm. It was right on the other side there, and it's always been plotted that you could develop that with the owner. And, it had the same response that they're willing to partner, but if they're not willing to sell, they can develop it. So therefore, our recommendations are just that, we'd love to continue to be considered to be, use that funding for open space. So with that, do we have a recommendation with what you've typed up?
What I have so far is for our annual Boulder County open space recommendation, PROSTAC request CenturyLink first, Zaharias second, Bojack third priority. Do we want to say anything about trails though and combine into one motion?
Do you want them all in one motion or?
Either way is fine,
Yeah, we usually
but
do both.
Yeah.
I think we've done the past, we've done both. And then our second phase is we recommend to continue to partner up with
So let's.
Boulder County for the future, for trail.
So that's the open space. So let's go through the trails then. I know we went through these, I swear it was last month, right?
Yeah, I thought we did too.
But it was kind of our initial pass. Okay. So trails are next on the list here. And this one gets more interesting because there are lots of verbiage on trail connection names. So we'll just go on the list here. I think there's 6 of them that are on this list. And actually, I think we removed one, right? So the first one is a trail connection from US 36 underpass at Davidson Mesa. So that's just really tying the underpass through Marshall Road, because we think it's kind of a safety concern, that the underpass coming out directly onto the highway. So that's our number one recommendation, or it's what has been identified as our number one recommendation previously. So that's that one. And, you know, Boulder County said that they understand the request, and also Louisville involved as well.
And that's because the land on the other side of Marshall is technically Louisville. If you were to go straight across the tunnel, that land is right there. That water thing is all Louisville. So that's why Louisville wants to try to figure out a way to connect it rather than going through Superior.
So you mean the land on this side of 36, on the other side of Marshall?
Yep.
Is Louisville?
That water is Louisville's treatment.
That one little, yep.
So that's why they're, we had discussions about it. I don't know who was here about it.
Yeah. Well, and there was lots
Tunnel or
of,
running something under. Or
Yeah, it was like
running
3
parallel
years
water
ago.
Yeah,
so I think that's when that was built, 2 or 3 years ago, something like that. And lots of different opportunities there. And I think there is some trails, can't remember the exact names, but I think there was some additional trails below. But as you can see that, you know, Louisville is also requesting this, and it has but they haven't put any staffing or funding toward it. It's on their list, but it's more of a 5-year out thing is what they responded last year. But again, you got to keep asking, and maybe it comes up sooner. So, keep putting it on the list. This one is the Shan property, so this one really would actually come off, because I believe what we're putting in that trail connection and the trailhead and the connection. So therefore, this is probably not required. So number 2 would come off. Number 3 would be the
that's cool.
the improved surface and safety of the Colton Trail to a standard consistent with Meadowlark Trail. So really, right now, that's more of a 2-track roadway, kind of miscellaneous rocky.
It's very
and this
rocky.
would, very rocky. So this would just bring it up to a level of standard of more of a crusher fine aggregate path of something like that. And, again, it comes down to, there may be other changes to it, but this is just a recommendation to bring that up as a new trail modification.
This one starts at the roundabout.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Goes towards the,
Straight west, yeah.
I suppose I could bring up a map of these. It's like a whole nother.
They're at the end too.
Okay. Oh, okay.
I don't know.
All right, so then number 3 on here is the link between the Mayhofer Single Tree Trail and the Coal Creek Regional Trail. And if we read into that one, Mayhofer, Meadowlark, 3rd Avenue and Original Town, linked to the Coal Creek Regional Trail near Town Hall. Is this the one that goes the bridge over? Okay, I may have to scroll down further. You said there's a map. Is there a map in this packet? Here, this is page 21. I'm going to read the last 2, and then I'll see if I can find a map further down. So the last 2 were, number 5 was add access to the Meadowlark Trail off McCaslin Boulevard near High Plains Drive, which I believe that one is the one that has that short little link. That's once you go around the curve, there's a little parking area that people shoot off of before you get to the circle down on Colton.
That's what they don't want to do, though, right?
That's the one they don't want to do.
They don't want that one.
They always say they
That's
don't
why
want
they're
that.
running Shan now.
Right. And with the Shan, hopefully that takes away the parking of this one. Not identified. Okay. And then the number 6 on here was the trail along McCaslin from Indiana South to Calmonte neighborhood. And that one is, this request is that it's not within town of Superior lands and Superior Road right away. This would be under.
So they're basically saying we need to do that one.
Yeah, they're basically saying that that one, because this is the one on the east side
Yeah.
of McCaslin. So it's not within their purview. If it'd be on the west side, that'd be more in the open county or open space purview, Boulder County. And then can you read OSAC's list one more time? Because they recommended some name changes, slight variation.
Sure, they said, remove Shan Shan Trail request,
Which is the number 2 item on here, so yes.
McCaslin to Meadowlark Trail request, and Indiana to Calmonte Trail request.
So remove all 3 of those?
Yeah. And then potentially reword the CCRT Mayhofer Single Tree Connection request.
So basically, if I look at, from what you just said, they kept number 1, which is the trail connection from 36 and Davidson Mesa, removed number 2. Number 3 is still on there for improvement to Colton Trail. Number 4 is reword the link between the Mayhofer and the Coal Creek Regional Trail.
Potentially reword, and I know that they would want to work with PROSTAC for whatever wording, if PROSTAC agrees.
Yeah. And then remove the access to the Meadowlark Trail because that's the one that they don't want anyway. And then remove number 6 as that's the one that's in the town.
Indiana, Calmonte.
In the town of Superior.
That's the one that's too expensive because of the bridges, right? Because there's some major.
Yeah.
The ravine and.
Yeah, the ravine is causing a major headache.
It's all relative. It just doesn't have the proper slope.
Did they add anything else? Did OSAC add anything?
Only the, I think replace the Rogers Farm property acquisition request with this other property.
But no trails?
No.
Okay.
But when we were looking at trail recommendations, oh my goodness. Can't take me.
And it would be the whole, our 5-year trails plan, trails that would connect in Boulder County open space
Right.
or lead to it somehow.
I was just looking at our 5-year trails plan, some of the trails that we had on there. Okay. And I guess one of them was the connection if you get the Davidson Mesa path across, then there's like 5 different options or 3-4 different options of where you could potentially interconnect that.
That, I'm not sure, but if we scrolled back up to Louisville's
Where's my mouse?
area, they might have also had something along
This
those
one
lines.
here?
I'm not sure.
Because the trail will ensure a safe direct connection. But it is a connection to the Mayhofer Single Tree Trail, and that's where there's a few different alternate routes to get to the Mayhofer Single Tree Trail from Davidson Mesa, from that underpass. So that one would be, I think, one I've seen this wonderful document here from back on the 5-year trail plan. There's like 3 different ways to connect from the underpass to the Mayhofer Trail, whether you go right or left or around an existing roadway, riverbed, et cetera. Okay. So it seems like it's covered there and we don't have to work out the fine-tuned details. It's just a matter of if they would want a trail there and how that connection works.
And the last one on this list that Boulder County said, Superior, that's your problem. I guess that's my reading of what they said. Do we agree with that?
Yeah.
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 It's all ours.
Fully in Superior, on our side.
I think, yeah, if it's east of McCaslin, it's a little more questionable than if it's west.
Well, and then there was also the whole thought process by connecting to the trail going through Rocky Flats. So a lot of it came up. I know it's on the wrong side of the road, but how we're gonna get that, you know, the thing that Superior wants nothing to do with. connected to Rocky Flats. So I don't even know where that's at right now, so.
One,
I don't even want to ask.
I don't have all the documents to pull up, but the 5-year trail plan, could you? Just because that way otherwise I flash my 8.5 by 11 for everyone and everyone goes, uh-huh. But a while back, there was a couple other connections and those were removed specifically because of, as Ron said, the connections to the larger trail system. So interconnectivity amongst the trails within the town of Superior is something we have on our 5-year trails map. That's not the one.
It's not the one. I'm like, wait, what is this?
You have to look for the map.
This is our newest. See, I have a folder waiting.
5-year trails.
I think we put it into our personal.
It's not like your trails.
Yeah.
It's just a
Yeah, I
matter of
wanted
which
the newest
one.
That's a new one.
You gotta look at the PDF though. The one at the, nope. I think it's the one at the bottom. And that might not even be the latest one, but it looks good. There you go.
Yep.
And then if you just scroll down. So you can, oop, there you go. See, 18 and 19 were on the western side and within the Boulder County open space. And those are the ones that they say that there's still too much grade and ravines and other things, as well as that would be the potential connection to the, what's the trail called again?
It's Rocky Flats. I don't know what they're calling it. So.
Yeah, there's also the Rocky Flats connection over here that may at some point tie in. And that's one of the things that we didn't really want a direct connection right in here. But this one, the 6A, is one that we were looking at from all the Calmonte development and tying along the southern edge of, or eastern side of southern McCaslin, if you will. Because there's a northern connection, the southern connection isn't there, and that's just the further development within the town of Superior Land.
I want to say we put it on this list because of the expense. Because it's so expensive to do, so.
Do we understand why OSAC is suggesting removing it? Do we have those notes?
Because in Superior.
I think it's because of the comments. To an extent, it might be from the comments. Which one was this? Which one was I looking at before? Do you know? The PDF?
Did you close it?
I didn't close it, but that doesn't mean it's.
She might have closed it when she closed it all.
I could have closed it.
It's okay.
I can reopen it.
Well, if you can find it, great. But let me point out before you go away, there was also this trail here that Boulder County was definitely against, and we were talking about removing that when we were talking about the 5-year trail plan. Because,
That goes along the ditch, right?
right, and they said there was safety concerns and also, I can't remember if there's grade issues too, or environment, yeah, there's some other.
Oh, is that it?
Management plan.
Right. So there's a bunch of other factors in the open space that they would not want that trail to go through.
And didn't need it anymore,
Right.
because you got the Chantier Trail.
Yep.
Is there any opportunity to put a trail on the west side of McCaslin in that south part of Superior? Not just so that it's in Boulder County area, but so that we don't fight all of the grade and ravine issues that we do on the Superior side of the road, because there's just nothing to go north-south on McCaslin other than if you want to go on that highway.
Isn't there property?
Yeah, there's a property up there. That's the
That's the
Bojack.
Bulljack.
This is the Bojack property, yeah.
The Bulljack, and once you get up to that, what is it, Indiana, right before the hill, I don't remember what they call that, but that's where it gets tight, right around that Bulljack property. So, ooh, I'm only on page 12. there's Superior. So there's the open space, back to the trails. And then was there a, no, there isn't any map. But the last one, it said that the trail within the town of Superior limits, Superior road right of way. Thus it would not be under Superior and not under Boulder County.
So in other words, there's no reason for us to keep including this because,
Right.
so we might as well take it off because they're not going to consider it anyway.
That's from their responses, that's what, yes.
Okay.
So then we'd be down to 3 open space properties and I believe 3 trail recommendations in the open space.
We're going to remove the Meadowlark Trail as well.
Yeah, because the Meadowlark Trail is, that one's the one that they were hoping that the Shan Shan Trailhead is also taking care of that connection.
Okay.
That's another additional connection and therefore you wouldn't want 3 connections along McCaslin.
Okay. So are we ready for a motion then on this? Or?
Any questions?
I don't know, do we have any other further discussion? I mean, we kind of discussed the open space, but from a trail standpoint.
I just had the vaguest recollection, especially when you pull up that last PDF map, that there were a couple other trails that we talked about.
Oops.
One that sticks in my head is that Coyote Trail, that circle back.
This one back here?
Yeah, did we talk about doing some improvements there also? Or did we just talk about the trails and what it was and how it was used?
This is still on the 5-year trail plan, but it's within town of Superior and within the CenturyLink property. So it's not really part of Boulder County open space. So therefore, you know, really when we're talking the Boulder County open space, it's really that McCaslin to the west. So, and then that's where the last one is, like, you know, when you get underneath here, there's there was some other trail configurations out here. Okay, any other discussion?
I mean, the reason there's so few trails now is because the connectivity options with Boulder County is just getting fewer and fewer and fewer, so, which is good. So,
Okay,
but this has got nothing to do with our normal trails that we want to see built. This is how,
Boulder
is
County,
Boulder
yeah.
County willing to pay for it, basically? Can you guys pay for it?
well, and it's
And I'm just
also,
trying to recollect what we talked about
Yeah.
here and what we're trying to do today. So
Sure.
thank
Uh-huh.
you.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense.
And up and down, we just talked about it and it almost sunk in. Up and down McCaslin on either side, there's no great option for trails right now because the one side,
well, we have
The further south you get, yeah.
the new development of the roadway, put in a sidewalk all the way along, and then there's trails along the backside. There's a connection here to the north. I think it's once you hit the Colton trailhead and to the south that, you know, there's connectivity, there's decent grade that you could provide connectivity, except for there's the one ravine in here, and that's the one costly piece of connecting that entire trail system together. So, you know, you could potentially say this is a fairly even grade that you could provide a crusher fine similar to the northern half, but it's the financial burden of the 6A right there. Well, right where the 6A is that's where the ravine is too close to the road, and in order to get the grades and connectivity, you'd have to build that out and retain it, build a little retaining wall to get the right grades. And that's the spendy part of that trail.
It's the same with South McCaslin, North McCaslin
Yeah, there's one-
when you go up, there's a ravine right there, but where you kind of have to.
It's right here.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. It's the exact same issue, where you kind of go on the,
Yeah, they have some railroad tie, retaining wall, and then crusher built up right along the road. They pulled it really tight to the road.
yeah.
And it's important to keep all this stuff on the map, because someday they're gonna redo McCaslin, and when they do, that's when you would say, okay, look, we've been talking about this for 10 years. You know, can we please try to add this trail to it when you guys widen McCaslin? So,
When you modify anything on McCaslin.
yeah. Like,
Not always,
well, like
not just
building the-
necessarily widen
Yeah,
it, but
building the properties out, that's the only reason you're getting the the sidewalk built on both sides of the highway.
Yeah, all this down in here
Yeah.
is all because of the
Those
development of the
Those
roadways
trail
and
lists
this,
have been on here since I was here,
right?
so.
And did I catch the one actually had a bridge right here? Was that one of the wordings of the improve link between Mayhofer Single Trail and Coal Creek Regional?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that was my understanding of it.
That's right there.
Was that the one from the Rogers Farm property over into back behind Town Hall, right?
That's what I think. That's the one that OSAC said we may change the wording a little bit so that everyone understands it a little better is what I take away from that. And that'd be the other thing I think that we could, I guess from a committee standpoint, we could easily move forward with these three. If we want to refine the wording with OSAC in, an additional session to refine wording, we could do that in a amendment to the proposal.
And I don't think this is due until February. So we have some time to work on it. And, if we wanted to have it final, like say January meeting would be great. And we could just submit it and it would be done.
Okay. Well, okay.
So does that mean we don't need a motion and we just record this discussion and then we meet with the OSAC and come up with the wording for that last one and then just do a motion when that's done?
I would say, I agree with that, but I'm just all about getting things done lately and just saying, can we provide what we think is the motion? And then we take that to OSAC and say, OSAC has a motion, we have a motion, we make modifications, and then we come back and agree to it as a group. Otherwise, we'll continue to rehash the same thing again. Because we kind of went over this last month, and I think, it's just more of a, what did you talk about last month? Do we understand it a little better this month? And let's resolve it. Otherwise, we're going to kind of continue to rehash.
The rewording that was requested or noted, do we have any hints on what we're talking about? It looked like it was plenty wordy. Is it just clarification or is it?
All I have is the notes. I was not at that meeting.
I guess what I'm fishing for is, sometimes it's good just to propose some wording and send that along as, is this the kind of thing you were thinking of, and let them mark that up and send it back versus waiting another month to go off and do that. That's my only point.
So one of the things I was going to ask for, recommend in my update section, but I'll talk about it right now, is one of the work plan issues was a collaborative effort between OSAC and PROSTAC on Town 15. And we kind of had the same problem. OSAC met, PROSTAC met, and kind of like two ships passing in the night. We got close, but we didn't have the same sort of joint statement that we'd get if we could have everyone in the room together. This might be another thing, because I think that the ask is that we try to just have a PROSTAC OSAC joint meeting, maybe in Q4, because the other reason that's really helpful on Town 15 is we're going to start the PROST master plan next year, and if we can get really far down the path on what the ideas are for Town 15 in a collaborative statement, it's going to make the master plan sort of piece of that a lot easier. And things like this, otherwise we are going to we're going to mark it up. OSAC's not going to meet, for another 3 weeks, and then we may not get the minutes in time to have the next meeting. It could be, it could be 2 or 3 meetings before we get the wording just right on this, relative to sitting down together and sorting through it.
And I did talk to Ryan last week, and he mentioned that, and the chair of OSAC, and he mentioned that, like, if they needed to come before one of our meetings, or if everybody wanted to meet up before one of their meetings, that maybe we could get something together like that.
I'm all for not rehashing it, but I guess I'm not sure that we have to do a motion in order to do that. I think we can also just say, this is what we're going to do, and then the next time we put it on the agenda, it's literally going to be to approve the wording that was approved by OSAC.
But it's going to be a rehash of, does everyone remember?
Not necessarily, not if we have it in the notes that everyone agreed.
Okay.
Did OSAC put the recommendation through?
No, they
discussed it?
They discussed it. They decided what to remove, what to add, and to reword this one item. And then I think they were thinking that this group would look at their, hear their notes on these, what they're intending to do, and kind of say, okay, yeah, we're good with these. And then we, maybe there could be a little back and forth on what the rewording would be, and then we can finalize everything at the next meeting, or.
But the problem is the back and forth doesn't really work, like unless we're all in the same room. And there's no detail in the notes about what they said, so it's hard.
I'd be all for one of our next walkthroughs being here
Good idea.
and maybe inviting our friends from the other committee.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, just
Walk back here and yeah. But I also think like it's already kind of in there. Why can't we just call it the Coal Creek Regional Trail? Because it goes all the way to Erie, and that's what it's called. And it kind of starts here.
The advantage to putting together our recommendation now is November's a pretty sketchy meeting, December's a very sketchy meeting, and the next thing you know,
It's January.
we got January, and who knows what's gonna be on the agenda in January. So that would be the only upside, because I can't see it changing between now and January, but I also don't think there's any problem waiting to just put all this together in a little bit more of a PROSTAC, this is our recommendations form, rather than taking the old, here's what it looks like. Here's almost having the recommendation printed out before we even get here in January, and then say, okay, we're sending this off.
Yeah.
And if there's time to meet with PROSTAC or OSTAC, that would be fine, but I don't think that needs to be a priority. I know there's lots of discussion about this, but we've been having this discussion for a long time, that do we even need two committees? So it's two separate thought processes, which is why the ship's passed in the night on Town 15, because we got totally different ideas.
I don't disagree.
Okay.
But, I think, the ask is out there, and I think if we can try to at least address it, granted, there is only 12 weeks left in a year.
Yeah, we really only have one more meeting.
Yeah, we have one more meeting, and if master plan starts early part of 2020, and if, this needs to be in by February, if you back it up, they probably need this submitted, in January. There's not a lot of runway to get this done unless, we at least try to get together. And, even if we can get together and agree to disagree, that's a decision,
So we had started, I thought, meeting with the OSAC for Town 15 kind of general powwow each month, and that sort of fell apart. And so I will reach out to them this week and see if I can resurrect that and then add this to them, and maybe we can, at least if that's a good, if it's desired here, I can get together with them and we can start doing that again. Both for Town 15 and for this, I think it would be good just to start that up again. I don't know what the response will be, but I would like to do that.
Todd, I think that's fantastic. Whether or not, I haven't sat on an OSAC meeting. I have another email asking, why don't we try to get the committees together? And Sandy and I have talked, hey, maybe this is a way to force it, because, Todd reaching out, or, Corey reaching out, Corbett reaching out, or anybody, whomever, it's not necessarily the whole board, but at the same time, that might be the fastest way to get something done. Because if we were to send out a doodle poll, when can everybody be available in the next 10 weeks, it's going to be really difficult to find a piece of time.
You set up for Thursday.
Well,
Yeah, we'd set it up.
Yeah.
Because now I can go Thursday, so.
Well,
Afternoons, we can set it up and get it.
I guess just looking at it though, we have 3 open space parcels.
Yeah.
We all agree on that. OSAC agrees on it. We agree on it. Trails, we have Davidson Mesa, the Colton Trail improvements, and then the Coal Creek Regional Trail, which honestly, I feel the Coal Creek Regional Trail, with everything that's written all there, that's just basically existing conditions, and there's some rough understanding of what's out there and how to get around. But the fact is that until Rogers Farm finishes where their connections are, where their streets are, how it comes together, we don't know where the final trail, if you come down McCaslin, you hit the roundabout, and then where do you go from there? Does that come and connect a block this way, or does it connect right at the road? That's what this is trying to figure out where that bridge is and how we interconnect to Rogers and bring it into the park system and into the Coal Creek Regional Trail. So to me, no matter what we put, we have to work with the Rogers Farm development and how the final sidewalk and roadways are being put in. And it's right up against the edge. I mean, if we have a final development plan of that and know exactly where their sidewalk stops, we could kind of propose some wording to align to that, to say, you know, do a tie-in of our community to the Coal Creek Regional Trail.
And I think you can be vague enough in this submission, you know, to what we're
Right.
trying to do. I think you're absolutely right. BCN is already kind of trying to retool what the houses look like, because they're giant on one end, and they're thinking of going with a different product right now. So even
Right.
that is happening real time. So how do you factor that in? I mean, clearly the ask is to make it a better, you know, tighter link.
Right.
But we don't know what that alignment needs to be.
So, I mean, from our recommendation and what we have right now in your notes, that we have pretty much consensus on 5 out of 6, and the 6th one should be just vaguer, more vaguely written, so that we could basically open it up to say, we just want the trail connectivity and a bridge across to allow the north to the south and the Coal Creek Regional Trail to be connected. And, you know, that's really the rewording, and it's, you know, we'll work with wherever that development is and however that fine tuning is. Because we didn't fine tune the Davidson Mesa. We just said there's a connection. And there's 3 options on that, but this one has it all written up.
So can we just list that we're going to do the priorities 1, 2, and 3, and number 3 will potentially be reworded with cooperation with OSAC? So that you want to do a motion with that?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
Sorry, I'm all about
I
push it today.
Well, I mean, we may not even have a quorum next month because it's before Thanksgiving. Christmas, we don't do it, so.
Right, I know I'm out of time.
All right, so I would like to make a motion. Do I need to record it right now, or how does that work? Do I hit it now, or do I wait till I don't know.
Well, you're
I don't know
going to
which
put
one. I haven't
your
looked.
second.
But do I have to make the motion first?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So my motion is for our annual Boulder County open space recommendation. PROSTAC requests CenturyLink first, Zaharias second, and Bojack third priority. And for our annual Boulder County trail recommendation, PROSTAC requests trail connection from US 36 underpass at David Mesa as first, improved service and safety on Colton Trail second, and Mayhofer Signal Tree and Coal Creek Regional Trail potentially reworded with cooperation with OSAC third.
Perfect.
Do I have a second for that?
I second that motion.
Perfect. Just discussion, Ron's gonna lead this pretty soon.
Anybody have anything to say? Okay.
Anything? All right, let's vote. So all those in favor,
I just suppose.
raise a hand. All those opposed, I guess unanimous. It passes. I get to hit the gavel.
And then I'm going to add a note
Actually, fly out.
that Todd is going to lead discussion with OSAC on wording and town.
Hold on, that was in discussion. We can't add that on.
That's not part of the motion. I'm
Just a note.
I'm just recording that.
Just a note. Sounds good. Perfect. Love it.
All right.
You schedule a meeting, let me know.
Let me know too. I might be in town.
I'll try to be there.
Oh, hey, wake up, all.
Sleep.
So are you on the next one?
What's the next one?
Because I don't know the answer.
I'll even come up to the podium.
What's the question?
Do you want the mouse?
No, I just printed a bunch of reports out from our
Perfect.
software. This is regarding our programming, our recreation programming for the year. Just to give you a quick overview and some of the things that we've been doing this year, some of our new programs. We had in our regular programming, not including private lessons and masters club swim groups, just as far as our open space education and ultimate disc and soccer and programs like that. Our enrolled amounts were almost 500 participants, and with the potential for a maximum of over 3,000 participants. So we offer a lot of programs, and just to keep that into perspective, that's the recorded amount was almost 500. There's a lot of these free programs that we offer that people do not register for. And so we have, general counts for those. It may not be exactly on, but very close. And, for example, Walk with a Doc last month had approximately 40 people, but there was no enrollment for that because sometimes enrollment, depending on different groups, could be difficult, or if it's a free program that's offered, people don't enroll. So we do have like a little second tally of numbers that we record for people that don't enroll. We had some new programs last year, including some partnerships with the libraries. That was a partnership that I created with Louisville Library in Boulder County, and most of those programs were some type of parks and open space education for Star Stories. We had a Harry Potter Star Story at night. We had a few different programs that were run that worked out well, and there was one that had no registration. I don't know if it was the date or if it wasn't, age group or something. We've also started, continued to run our soccer camps, and tennis was great this year. We had some community skates on the ice, which was new this year. And there were like 5 of those this year. And different drop-ins, scuba. Girl Scouts did a big scuba class and certification, so that was kind of cool this year. The information that I have on swim lessons, which is a separate program report than this primary one, was that, there is a season. It's only programmatic as far as May to September. And we had past members that participated in those programs, and the fees from that were over $3,000 alone. And for the other programs, the total fees were about $52,000. So does anybody have any questions or comments about our program reports?
This was all yearly numbers, is that right?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
So from your perspective, what's working and what's not working?
Well, that depends. For example, some of the programs are free and educational. So, and people don't register for those because they don't have to pay for them. But that reaches a niche audience, and some people are really passionate about that. And then we've had great participation in our tennis programs, our swimming programs. Our soccer camp seems to still be doing well, and Ultimate Disc is doing well. So I guess it's a matter of perspective as far as what the definition of doing well is. Is it only monetary, or is it also, providing an educational service that's free to the community also? So
I guess I'd say doing well would have good participation.
right. Well, and that
Right.
can be, well, and then I think that's difficult to define further, only because I know it sounds kind of wiggly, but if you have an educator that can only have a certain number of participants, say they're outside and they're hiking at night and they can only have a maximum of 20 participants. If we have 18 and the class is almost full, but that's how many people she can really teach, then is, that I consider that, I think that's successful. And, in a soccer camp where you can have multiple coaches, and if it's almost full, say we have 30 spots, but we only fill 15, but those 15 kids got to have summer camp. I don't know. It's kind of an interesting dynamic. Some people feel one way and some people feel,
You mentioned that the tennis program has been really great. Is there opportunity to add more tennis? Because I feel like the tennis program has been really great, even though we haven't been able to participate. But I've gotten good feedback from it from neighbors and whatnot.
Yeah, I mean, we have a pretty robust, tennis program, and we have switched tennis professionals this year. I think it was switched. And I guess one of the problems that could be argued for adding more programs would be court time, and how that affects residents playing, or how that affects how many kids you can have on a given court at a given time after school or during the week. I guess there's different considerations for programming the space we have.
I guess that brings up another question for me, is just overall the amount of facilities that we have for these programs. Do we feel that the facilities are at capacity, or that the facilities can actually handle it, or we have more than enough of something but not enough of something else?
Well, I
You know
could
what I mean?
definitely pull facility reports that shows who is reserving, or which user groups or which programs are at a facility at a given time. But I do think that the sharing between programmatic type classes and residents utilizing a facility, it's a very fine balance. And I think most of our fields and tennis courts and pools, are pretty actively used.
I guess the general question I have for everybody to consider is whether the PROST master plan then will also evaluate programmatic needs in addition to facility open space trails needs.
I would hope so. I mean, I think we get to define what the master plan should encompass, at some early stage. And I think that's going to have to be part of it, because, the other thing to factor into that master plan is the size of Superior is going to be changing very quickly. And that's going to have a significant impact on planning of facility usage and programming.
I just want to add that I think that Superior does a really great job with focusing on kind of youth programs, but I think that we could do a much better job of focusing on kind of senior programs. So I think there's an opportunity there to put in programs for like silver sneakers, where seniors can get together and just kind of walk around town, or, and I'm just spitballing here, but I think the town in general could better serve our seniors.
And our recreation coordinator is super passionate about senior programming, and she just recently started the Walk with the Doc program, and I don't know if you're familiar with that, but so I think it's going to be the third Saturday of the month, and in the winter it may be indoors, but if you could watch out for our newsletter, it's welcome to everyone, but it's where residents or participants can come to a park and do a hike in the park with a physician. And I think it's a really cool program that Lydia Yucky, our recreation coordinator, has developed and started here. She's definitely passionate about it. And one of the things I'm kind of excited to talk to Corbett about when he's at our next meeting is he did go to the conference and he did meet with Lydia Yucky, our coordinator, and they had some really interesting conversations about potential programming. And if anybody has ideas, we'd be happy to take any ideas for anything like a Silver Sneakers program, which I know for a fact she's been working on or looking at. And we can help work through, maybe starting some new programs. I mean, we're always looking for new ideas.
Another one is like a community game night where, senior citizens and the youth can come together and play card games, mahjong,
And it's interesting because we've done a lot of different things over the years, like, technology nights for seniors with the Senior Youth Leadership advisory committee or board. And, some things go over really well, and then some things don't have any participation. So like, we were really trying to get teens from last year. I think it was talked about, we really needed to try to get some teams. So one of the library programs that I worked with Boulder County and Louisville Library on was an iNaturalist program for, an app on your cell phone and a competition and a contest, and no one signed up for it. So you can think some things are a great program, but depending on people's calendars or vacations, sometimes it's just hard to gauge, but we're welcome to any ideas, for sure.
Do we know what's going on with the Land Rover building yet? And is there any space that can be programmed in there for things like game night and stuff like that?
Well, we do have a community room, so we shouldn't forget about our community room at the sports stable, but currently, I think on the 28th, hopefully an agreement for the conceptual design and construction management with the architect for Land Rover will be beginning, and then starting our community engagement around that.
Is it free to use that community room in sports stable?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just have to reserve it?
Yeah, you have to reserve it. And,
Sorry. You need to reserve.
Is that through the town website?
I don't think you can reserve the room via the town website. We have some new software where we're working on facility reservations that would go online. It's not quite up and running yet. But our recreation coordinator, Lydia, who I was just talking about, she's able to help you reserve that facility. Yeah.
Other than Williams Field, how's the reservations? 'Cause I know we reserve spots over here at Founders. You're reserving spots over at Purple.
Are we talking about pavilions
Yeah.
or sport fields?
No, non-sport fields, the pavilions. How are we, do you guys track from year to year, how many rentals how many
We do,
reservations you have?
and I didn't do a facility rental, I just did the programs tonight, but I could send that report to everybody.
Well, and my question is, and the reason I'm asking this question is, are you turning people away? And are we in need of more
pavilions?
from strictly a reservation standpoint?
Right, so our recreation coordinator, she handles all of the facility reservations, and that would be a report I would have to pull for you, because I don't reserve facilities as part of my.
I didn't know if it was part of your numbers of we're just slammed, we never have enough space for people, or are
No.
residents getting bumped by non-residents?
I only
Things like
did
that.
programming, not like
Understood.
pavilions and stuff like that, but I can pull it for us, for
I
sure.
would think that would be something good to have, because as we go into 2020, we need to say, look, we don't have
Right.
enough. Or maybe we have enough, I don't know.
And it would definitely, I would assume, would be part of the master plan process where we would pull all those numbers.
Right,
And I definitely know there is competition at certain busy seasons, like graduation parties and things like that. But it feels to me like typically it runs rather well, but I think conflicts do arise for certain places at certain times.
Well, I'd also
know.
be curious to know how Founders is doing with the staggered reservation system, where we don't reserve it all the time, we only have certain windows. But if you don't know.
Forgive me if I'm trying to remember, wasn't that only for like certain T-ball games and it wasn't
No,
for?
I'm talking about for the pavilion.
Oh, for the pavilions, yeah.
I don't know about the baseball field. Baseball fields, we always need fields. Everybody needs
Right,
fields.
okay,
So
but that's why.
I'm more
and it-
interested in the pavilion side because we built the new one at Purple, and that seems to be filled every weekend.
Right,
Now, I don't
and-
know if that's people reserving it or just using it.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where my questioning was
Yeah.
coming from, like, well, do we need a bigger one up at the top of the hill? Do we need to replace that small one by the park on Purple Park? Or do we need to, I know there's
Yeah, we definitely have reports on it, and unfortunately, I only pulled the programs, which is what the agenda item was, so I didn't even.
Sorry, somebody's got to add that to the agenda.
I assumed it was part of it. Well, there's park and rec.
I thought about it, and I was like, no, they said program.
But with that comment though, I mean, Ron brings up a good point of even reservations of like Williams Field, is that 70% utilized or is it 100% utilized and there's still people waiting?
Well, that's a good question, and I think it's kind of one of those things where we've instituted like these priority user groups because it is always busy. And some of the, things that can happen, you could, on the website, you can see where you could, when it's open, when it's not booked. And it's like a few hours here or a few hours there. And then people that have some type of tournament or lights aren't working at another field, they come and scoop it up as fast as they can. So I definitely feel that.
Or it rains somewhere. People play there when it's raining.
Right, or snow.
Or snow.
Or they decided to have a tournament and they didn't have a long scheduling window, and then they notice, oh, from 3 to 8, Williams is open, and then they move it to Superior. So fields are always in high demand.
So I have one more. I think I asked this before. Is there anything we can do to extend the swimming pool seasons a little bit? For example, last day there was parts of the day that they were turning people away, so they'd come back in a few hours. It's fun
When the pools are full to capacity?
Yeah, it's just like I say, end of the season. We had a lot of nice weekends after closing day at the pool, and I know it's hard getting guards and all that, but is that at least something we could consider?
And it's only going to get worse with the town getting bigger.
Well, everyone is always competing for lifeguards. Always. There's always and we, our salaries are very decent for our staff. And it's just, towards the end of the season because of school starting and, some of the lifeguards, just not having them anymore.
I totally understand. I just think if we got creative, one of the two pools, one day a week, I don't know what the answer is, but I think it'd get utilized and we ought to at least.
And typically we really, really try not to have that happen. I mean, our recreation manager, it's so hard for him to do that. And when he doesn't have the staff, just safety is the primary objective. And so it's really hard because, people are not happy. And it's just an unfortunate thing that happens sometimes.
All I was pointing out is that, those last few weeks of summer when it did close, it was still really popular. And then we had several nice weeks after that.
And if
before.
People, if the majority, well, almost all of the staff are students.
Yeah.
I should ask Brian, our recreation manager, exactly if it's 100%, but once school starts back, we lose our staff to college and high school.
It's actually Louisville with the rehash of the redevelopment of their indoor pool. That's one of the biggest issues they've had is trying to retain lifeguards and they're open year round. And it's become, kind of a bottleneck that they anticipated, but not to the degree that they're struggling. But I mean, your point's valid. If you think about budgeting, just trying to find, because every year is different. September, some years is terrible. This year is pretty good. We should definitely find a way to keep them open as long as possible.
And the pool is open. There's groups using it.
Yeah.
It's just, the residents can't use it because of the lifeguard situation. Yeah. So it's just unfortunate.
Yeah.
Well, and it's funny because I'm a member of a lot of parks and recreation and open space boards and organizations, and it's not just us. It's all over the country. At that time of year, that seasonal staff is just super hard to retain. And because of weather, there's no definite cutoff when the weather is going to be not as good. And I mean, we feel it also. I mean, we really want to keep it open.
other thoughts?
Thank you, Allison.
Questions? All right. All right. Well, thank you. And we'll move on to, let's see the mouse. Next on the list, we were going to just touch base on the PROSTAC 2020 work plan, just so that we actually have a little bit of discussion about it and thinking about, it's right here, isn't it?
Oh, okay. I was just making sure you have it.
I think it's here.
Yeah, that's the draft. I just copied everything from last year.
Right, and I modified mine last night.
Okay.
I didn't email it to you though, so that's why I had to pull it up. Anyway, the intent would be just that we discuss and start thinking about what our goals would be for next year and really what we want to achieve. Well, there are certain things on the agenda, the work plan that kind of carry year to year. But just looking at this, we basically in January always hold a leadership. We usually have schedule a joint meeting with the town board, try and get that as early in the year as possible so that we can make sure that we're aligned with what the town board is hoping we have in our work plan and what we want to achieve. And as we've talked about previously tonight, if the town board has approved us to work on a master plan and update the master plan, that would be a major piece for next year, from public engagement to just ideas and concepts and how to resolve that and kind of work it through. So, but as we keep going down the list.
Do we hit the lights?
Oh yeah, can you hit the lights? Because I I'm taking another nap. Oh.
I can do it.
I'll turn mine down.
So the first four are normal.
Yeah, the first, and then, update the annual amenities list, 5-year trail plan. Again, just maintaining those ideas. And as we've talked about here in the last couple weeks, or last couple months, the annual amenities list, continuing to push ideas and topics onto there about what we feel is needed in the community. And then, really ranking that at the beginning of the year for the budgeting process that the town board goes into. So those are pretty typical. So number 5, I would say, actually comes off the list because we're not going to talk about Riverbend.
For sure.
I'm not.
But there is.
We may talk about Tract H, but that's a different
And I
discussion.
can't recall if I gave PROSTAC an update with the Toll Brothers FDP approval last week, 2 weeks ago. There is going to be a park built kind of between the end of Coal Creek Drive and Tract 8, kind of the edge of Tract H. This was a give from the developer. So it sort of solves some of that Riverbend north of Rock Creek Parkway, west of 88th Street, lack of a park.
So does that actually become a topic of something for us to review at some
We need
point?
recommendations on what should go in there.
Yeah.
Like tomorrow.
Timeline's a good question.
Well, I'll put it in the first quarter on this list, but if it comes up being November, December, that we need to look at it, that's another thing that we could.
I think it's come up, hasn't it? I mean, it's.
Well, I thought it was approved, so.
The FDP for Toll Brothers is approved. The park itself, in terms of what's going to go in there, the amenities, that's still TBD. I mean, this was
And it's a few years out too. I don't see
Yes.
that tomorrow.
Yeah, it's a 4-year phased-in construction schedule.
You just leave that right there. Just get rid
Well,
of White Raven.
I was going to say that we leave, White Raven's kind of,
Is that the Truckee?
I think it's become a different discussion.
Where's White Raven? This is the first time.
Where is White Raven? This is the first time
Across from Starbucks.
I thought,
But we
I thought we were
Quarter from Starbucks.
asked
were asked to
remove
put that on ice,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah.
So the
It's
school
chilling.
is behind Starbucks. There's a school.
Oh, that little dead-end street that's now
That's
green?
what- Yeah,
Yeah.
it used to be White Raven Court.
Okay, well, that doesn't solve the Area 3.
No.
No, it's
No,
a
no.
totally different
This
discussion
was
that we had.
somebody else, joint venture, working with the town to provide a park.
but I think we were told to take that off our agenda until and unless it comes back up in the context of the land we're building, right?
Exactly, yeah.
Correct.
I'm just gonna, I want to move that down, but basically, discuss zone 3 tract H park amenity. That's very, very
Yes.
specific and vague all at the same time.
Yes.
Perfectly, yes.
Okay, so this one may move down.
Yeah, and with that one, with item 6, I think at one point the school, Rock Creek School, had expressed some interest to co-partnering with the town on that. However, I think the last email we got is they want to put that on hold until the town decides what it's doing with the Land Rover facility.
Right.
And I think at one point Patrick was going to reach out to Broomfield to see if they were interested in sort of partnering on that White Raven space, because their apartment complex is back up right to it. And I don't know that that went anywhere either.
Just for your, White Raven was also an area we discussed putting pickleball. It was one of the 3 spots that we found for pickleball, so.
If you only know the sound testing we did in that spot.
I can imagine, yeah.
And it's not very big, and it's very, if you drive past our, it's right on the left side, it's a mound, there's a lot of work that would have been done to make it
It's
compatible, yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to take that one. I took that one and moved it down. And then I wanted to write, oh, sorry, I guess I could talk as I type. PROSTAC master plan, scheduling, and just, projections. Because really, you need to set up a timeline, start discussing interaction, community engagements, all those type of things on how it would trickle out throughout the year. But it's something that if it's approved and financially for us to do, we'll need to schedule something at the beginning of the year on how to make that happen.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be
Scope.
twofold. We got to approve the budget next week, or the 28th, and then at that point, then staff's going to go have to figure out who's going to, go out and do an RFP on who's going to run the master plan, and then that timeline to where it gets approved and so on.
Yeah.
That one's going to be a little bit, squishy.
That's why we put it on the top of the list and say, as directed by the board. Did I spell that right? See? Just put that little caveat, we're all good. Anyway, begin work on the budget recommendations. Again, I don't think we need to finalize this tonight, but I just want to make sure we get it started, because as we said, November, December, it's really some more thought process for this group to really think about where we want to head next year, and then really need to have it finalized early. Really, we should have it by the end of the year to beginning of the year. First meeting in January should have this pretty set. So, and then we had been doing a few years ago, we did the team leaders and trying to do some other additional tasks like mountain biking outings and things like that. I think right now we've been kind of refocusing on what are our parks and communities looking like, and what are those amenities, and what's our focus on the amenities and trails. So I don't know if we want to maintain this or not. It's something that we've done in the past. So just something to think about. I'm just going to keep going down the list here and review amenities for the trailhead. I think we can take that off.
Yep.
Finalize the 5-year trail plan with impact, as our passing in the wind.
Actually, I wouldn't be so quick to take that off. Because of the last meeting you guys just had, where you guys had some pretty good discussions about Shan-Shan.
You watched the whole thing?
I did watch some of it. It got a little testy. So they are looking for amenities for Shan-Shan. What are we going to put there? So what options? Anything.
So I need to leave that?
Everything from a garbage can to a.
So OSAC presented, 3 options for the Shan-Shan trailhead, because right now it's just a parking lot. In terms of adding any amenities, I think there's a question A of how it gets funded. Is it the open space fund or the general fund? If it's the open space fund, I think there's some discretion there. If it's a general fund, then there's a board question of how do you prioritize that trailhead over the rest of the work plan. And that is still we didn't solve that in the budget conversation. So I mean, I'm not exactly sure where we're at with the Shanshan-Chu trailhead discussion. But it's an open question in terms of prioritization or the funding bucket it comes from.
But either way, if PROSTAC wants to have a say in what goes there, we got to put it on a first quarter.
Oh.
And we're going to have to come up with ideas what we think should go there, at least to give ourselves a placeholder. And it may be part of the 2021 budget, who knows? But if anybody has a scenario where they think, you know what, if we're building this trailhead here, what do we think needs to go there? Is basically what I would say to us, this committee. Say, hey, we got to come up with a plan, because if we don't, OSAC's going to come up with one.
So instead of reviewing it, should we just make a recommendation?
Well, I can just say, discuss.
Yeah.
We don't need to review, it's just discuss, just like Zone 3, Tract H Park amenity, now we're discussing trailhead amenity. It's kind of the same.
I should bring up for the record, we were invited to give some feedback on this, right? On the trailhead amenities, like that was one of our agenda items. I forget which month it was, but like this summer.
It's coming up. Oh, you talking about
specifically, yeah. So it wasn't like they were doing this in a vacuum.
No. I'm just saying we just need to. We shouldn't forget about it. Let's put it that. And now that it's not going to be done until the end of next month, right? I mean, they're getting to the point where it's almost done.
It should be done in the next 2 weeks.
Yeah.
But in the middle of winter, you're not going to be getting amenities. That's my point.
No, and the amenity discussion was really a 2020 budget discussion in terms of the parking lot gets done. The main reason for getting it done, is getting everybody to stop parking on 2nd and Williams, and just park up on McCaslin. But then there's an absence of amenities and the question of how fast or how soon or what amenities should go in.
And just to remind everybody, you've been tasked a few times by the board to don't be afraid to put up recommendations that may cost some money, because the trustees will make the decision if they're going to spend it or not. But at least say, look, we need a bike rack there. Let's start there. It's a bike, it's a trailhead. Somebody, you might need something there. I don't know. So, or maybe even just a garbage can. I don't know. So.
Okay, so we'll move that into the first quarter. We'll see, even if we want to have discussions about just amenities as we keep going on. I think that's one of our ongoing topics that I would like to keep on our agendas, is just ongoing amenities in all parks. So continuing down.
You looking for additional stuff now, or you just want to keep?
No, I'm just rolling through it and just throwing out what's in there, and then
first quarter was
kind
very busy.
I know, I already have 9 items up there.
There's more coming too.
And so I'm just rolling through it, and again, this is just so everyone understands what's on here, what we're looking for, and honestly, it's, if we want to change it, we have 2 months to really set a little timeline of what we want to achieve next year. So getting buy-in from everyone and understanding what we're doing, I think, is the key to this. So anyway, let's see, finalized recommendations. We always talk about booth and activities with 4th of July, Arbor Day, Chili Fest, etc. We always get a little update on the pest management and kind of how the programs are working over the summer. And then we roll into the Boulder County Open Space Trails, which is kind of what we started. Then this one, sorry, I highlighted it because I was going to hit the delete button. But RC Superior and trail connectivity to downtown, I think that's been discussed, and I think most of that has been approved in an FDP. So I don't know if there's a lot of trail connectivity left with what's developed over there, especially if the last piece was approved. But I think that starts coming into the 5-year trail plan, and just what are the connectivities with that, with the current approved plans. Similar to the Rogers Farm over here, what's that finally look like and how do we connect? So I think that rolls back to our 5-year trail plan. So I took that out. Rock Creek Corridor Vision Plan, I think, rolls into the master plan up above, but we talked about there's still town 15 potential uses, and just how do we want to continue that discussion. So I was going to leave that on there for now. Autry Park Master Plan and upgrades to the disc golf, etc. We talked about disc golf. There was skate park and, the improved parking lot. There's a lot of things going on over there right now. So just if there's any other things, I think it's just one of the outstanding items.
I think we're missing an E in Autry Park, aren't we?
Where is, oh, this one's spelled right. What's wrong with that one? too close to each other.
50%.
I was so close.
Use every permutation on them, they'll be right.
Yeah, that's true.
There's an I on the next one, don't worry.
Do we need to add an item for input on the Land Rover dealership community engagement process or usage?
Yes, we can.
Yes. Yeah.
Hold on, didn't I have review indoor amenity and community needs somewhere? Where's that at? Oh, it's not on there. It's on my list. Come on, Allison, did you delete that one?
I did. No, of course not.
I have
Really
review
busy.
indoor. This might have been an earlier version or a later version, I'm not really sure. But in review indoor amenities and community space needs. And then we can put old Land Rover.
Formerly known as.
Formerly known as.
Colton Road building now.
1,500 Colton Road property.
I'm just gonna say
I know the
formerly.
address because I'm living there.
I bet you are.
Did you
Okay,
get an office there?
Yeah, all of Parks, Rec, and Open Space moved in.
It's nice. It's
Relocated?
nice over there.
okay.
Come visit.
So,
So can we just stop in some afternoon and say hello?
Absolutely. We would love for you to come visit us.
Actually, I encourage it just as part of this engagement plan, you know, in terms of what does the community want, take a look at the building
Yeah.
and think
We're
big.
there and
I wanna
we love
lift
having
my car in
everybody
there.
come.
There's this really cool old trail the Land Rovers used to drive.
Oh, yeah, on the right. Love that.
Are they
Can we
going
try
to
that?
continue to have the first Fridays over there?
I'm not.
I think the answer is yes, because with it at the sticks, the noise and the background noise was always a problem. You know, the inside of 1500 Colton Road's more quiet.
Yeah.
It's
it
like a
was
library.
Great opportunity to see the facility also
Yeah.
last meeting we had there.
Okay, so just continuing down this one, we had Autry Park skate feature review and discussion, but I think that's, done. So I'm taking that one off. Oh, and then I think because we took off the town center, I wrote on mine the identified trail connectivity options, but I think that's, if we cover those in the 5-year trail plan, we don't need a separate line item for that. Fourth quarter was, again, review of recreational programming, and as Ron stated, maybe we should also review facility
Usage.
usage.
And for this year, I'll pull those reports and I'll shoot you guys the info.
Okay.
It's, I almost did, I was this close to doing it, so I apologize for that.
And then assess the needs for additional public engagement with recommendation of new recreational programming offerings. So I think that one tied to the previous two. I think it's more of a follow-on than a major item. But, and then we always have a list of ongoing things that sometimes get moved up and as directed by the board, we'll add into as agenda items. So some of the ongoing things that we know would be coming up would be the review of Parks 1 and 2 at some point. Those will be finalized, and therefore there'd be a chance for us to review those. Continue the Town 15 parcel discussion. And then we kind of had that written up here with the Town 15 potential usage. So I think we could probably take that off of here, right? Delete, where's the delete button? And, this one, I guess, we wrote it up earlier, but continue indoor space requirement review, park parcel, civic space, town, because there's also the 40,000 square feet. 10,000.
10.
I just
I'll take 40.
quadrupled it. I think 40,000 sounds better.
No, it used to be, it was 40,000 a while
It
ago.
was. Yeah, that's right. So,
Sorry, it's been a long.
so here's an update on that one. Ranch Capital is coming to the Planning Commission, I think October 29th, for the presentation on the downtown core, which includes that shared community, 10,000 square feet, which if you do your math, because it's going to come to the board around November 18th, there are no PROSTAC meetings between now and then. So love to get the feedback. I'm not quite sure how to factor it in with the schedule.
I have a quick update. I have some information
Oh.
on that written down too. Just that 10,000 number for this FDP is only going to be the core and shell. So the space itself won't be
Okay.
until, part of the Prost master plan next year.
Makes sense.
So it should be able to roll into that. I did have that written down.
Okay.
Okay. So, let's see, what was that next? We had talked about at one point about providing input on the park and street naming in the town center. I don't know if that's
So
ever been
that is a
finalized.
really good one, because when Toll Brothers came through 2 or 3 weeks ago, a lot of the board members, we had some problems with the names, and Stephen Williams from town staff had just plugged them in. It wasn't anything specific. So if PROSTAC has some recommendations, definitely feed them through staff in some way, shape, or form. I mean, I can't remember all the names, but one of them, and Laura picked up, was like seed corn.
What?
Yeah, seed
What's
corn
the
lane. One on the FTP was seed corn lane. Yeah, another one was like, I don't even get into it. They're unusual. And Toll is more than receptive to any sort of recommendations that town staff and the committees may have on that. There's a lot of streets in that development that need names. So.
Allison Avenue.
Well, and if we wanted to, these are the type of things that, if it's acceptable and the board's looking for that information, we could put this on an agenda just to have a little discussion about it, like next month. Maybe not all of us are here, but, it's just a topic of our discussion. So, anyway, just continuing down the list, and again, some of these are old, some of these are, may or may not be applicable anymore. So, continue town's wayfinding signage project, which is interesting because we had the Boy Scout come and talk about wayfinding and
Whatever happened
signage.
with that, I didn't hear.
I have our park superintendent working with him and, just talking over his options. He's come up with a new plan. And also, a lot of times we'll have a list for people as well of, things that we haven't done yet that they could also do. So I know he's working with staff on that.
Something else for next year that just came to mind. Whatever happened to the Ninja Warrior competition? Did that ever go anywhere?
It's in the budget for next year.
Is it?
I think we're holding 65,000 in the budget right now, but the goal is to have some of that offset with entrance fees or sponsorships, but it's in the budget. I mean, I think ultimately a lot of this goes on the backs of staff in terms of trying to implement, all the things that we've thrown at them.
Where does that take place?
It will be in town somewhere.
In Superior,
We
yeah.
might build it in Autry Park and you.
Yeah,
I've never been part of that.
That'd be a great idea.
Actually, they were going to build it over the pond.
Classic.
A little zip line going over
If you fall, you fall in the pond. All right, and continuing on. The next one here, continue review of options of trail connections at Davidson Mesa. I think that was, a heavy topic for a long time about the Davidson Mesa underpass. It seems like, those topics have kind of dried out of where we've taken them. And it seems like it's more because of the highway and the open space and Louisville, it seemed we were pushing a lot that we didn't have much control over. So yeah, that's kind of why I'm throwing it out here around here. So I don't think we have much more topics on that. Identify park improvement opportunities, which is what we've been doing lately with trees and shade, replace diseased trees, et cetera, as well as any other amenities.
I wouldn't be opposed to having even a shade plan or, all parks sort of shade recommendations.
I have a little bit of an update on this shade item now that I'm hearing you bring it up. I've got to kind of pull it up
We should
here.
go through the work plan every month.
One of the areas that everybody discussed, I think at our last meeting, was in Community Park and 3 trees have been planted there. So it's very interesting how the group's ideas actually overlap with staff plans that have been
They've
figured out
established
as
earlier.
well and established.
I think they listened to our meeting and said, I'm gonna go plant those trees today.
Well, it's funny because I actually went to our parks cruise and I said, hey guys, my committee is talking about these specific locations and I know how to look at a lot of the mapping and information that's there for trees. And I said, hey, one of the locations is specifically here. And they're like, today, we put 3 in that spot.
Wow.
So did they put them to the west of that field?
Yes.
Okay.
So I just thought that was a really cool tidbit to share. And there's been numerous locations. I have kind of general spots that they kind of gave me a quick list and a breakdown of them. But I mean, I love when things just kind of mesh like that. And so if there are any specific locations that the group is really interested in, I would love to be able to pass that information on, just to make sure, if they're planning on planting in an area that, if it is a specific area that the group has identified. I mean, that just worked out amazingly, so thank
Do
you.
you have a quick something you could present, maybe next week meeting that shows recent tree plantings, or, I don't want anything hard, just.
Well, it wouldn't be maps. I could tell you.
You just throw a map up there and point and say, right in this area, there was 5 trees added.
I could tell you a spot. Give me one second. Let's see.
So anyway, I think this is a good item to keep on our work plan, as it's a constant for everywhere, replacing trees and shade structures. Don't worry, we'll come back to you.
Oh, because I really want to read this to you guys, so I don't have to come back to you.
Hey, Allison, it's
Next one, I think, goes
probably,
away with the
Yeah.
new master plan.
If it's the budget, the next one on your list, delete.
Include evaluating action plan items, measuring.
No, review.
Well, yeah, but I was just trying to read the whole statement.
I've got it.
Go ahead.
Okay, so the weeks of September 16 through 27, park staff installed 21 trees throughout Superior, 4 in Founders, 4 in Purple Park, 2 at South Pool, 1 at Cabin, 2 across from Superior Elementary, 3 at Community Park, and 5 at the dog park. And hopefully in the next couple of weeks, this was on the 8th, Community Park parking lot, hopefully will also have some more trees.
Allison, do you know how many trees have been cut down in the last month or two, just with all the, we had, I mean, you don't have to answer right now, just, there are a lot that got cut down with the disease, and, because I know at the North Pool, there's at least 6 that had to get chopped down there.
And that's what I was going to talk about. So I'm trying to see the, now I have some shrub bed information. So I do know that there were potentially 13 trees in community that had to be removed, that were ash trees that weren't thriving. And there's going to be, I think, maybe around 700 trees townwide that are ash trees, but that doesn't mean they're all going to have to be cut down. I just know that's how many ash trees in our mapping system, approximately 700. But I'm not sure how many townwide have been removed that were failing to thrive, but we're really working hard. Park staff is really working hard on replacing trees everywhere.
so the town staff is probably aware, but like all the trees around that little park right by the tennis courts are, all of them have been cut down. I think there's like 6. So I just want to put it on the radar that they get replanted.
Oh, yeah, anywhere trees have been removed, we definitely don't forget about that area because, those are our resources and part of our amenities for our purviews in our areas. So, that's super important to us too.
If this is something that staff can put together, it might be helpful, for all of us, just a map of where trees have been removed in 2019, just a blob, and then how many have been added back in those areas.
Well, it's interesting because we have this mapping software where every tree in town has been documented and its status and the type. There are like 3 different layers of mapping from a couple of different years. And park staff is working on constantly working on updating those maps. And it's called Colorado Tree View. And everybody has access to it. So you can see where trees are, what type of tree. And many municipalities over the Front Range, like City of Denver, utilize this software so that you could see the urban canopy. And we've documented every single tree in town. But, it is a struggle at sometimes. It takes a while to update as we're replacing and as we're trimming and cutting down and as we're noticing failure to thrive in certain areas and trying to make sure that our percentages of trees, of our tree canopy is diverse. So if another potential problem like at Emerald Ash Borer occurs, then we have diversity in our trees around town.
Okay. Just going through these last couple here, I was just revising the statement for discuss possible White Raven Park amenity as directed by the board, which is just kind of moved from above to down here just in case that does come back and wants to be reviewed. And then the PROSTAC master plan would be, it appears that we could just take this one off because we put it up higher.
Yep.
And we said that the update the PROSTAC master plan, set up schedule, timeline for activities as directed by the board. And that would take away the action item of looking into how to do it and when to do it. So those are the items on the list. And let's see, and I was going to take this one off too.
You're going to put that in online so we can see it?
Sure.
Okay.
Actually, I don't know. I have to have you transfer it from whatever file it's in.
I can send it to everybody too.
I just hit save on it.
I can send it right now.
So, but that's what we talked about. But I think that, really, that's really just to get us all on the same page, but definitely think about what other things should be added or should be taken off or things that you would like to see as a committee that we, kind of want to talk about and, get excited about. And, if there's things that you want to make sure we try and look at, let's try and put those on the work plan and see what we want to achieve. So, anything else from anyone? I mean, I just read the list, but we had wonderful updates based on reading the multiple comments. So that takes care of our look ahead items as well. And so rolling back into the, I put the, if there's no other topics on this, we'll just let this, we'll send that out. Allison, send that out to the group, that page now. Or can you? Done? Okay. So that's out. So that's a done item. So now we can just definitely look at it at your leisure and bring back some comments for the next couple months. And we'll finalize it before the January or at the January meeting. So the 5D on the agenda, sorry, you need it?
No, 5D.
5D on the agenda, identify park improvement opportunities, and really I kind of tied those two together in the park walk and review, as well as identifying amenities, because I think last month it was really good to talk about a lot of the amenities at Community Park and what would be potential future. So this just leads into our discussion on amenities constantly. So
I'd like to make the town staff aware of the the neglect of the dirt bike park, because all of the focus has been on the skate park. And over the weekend, we biked there from the back of Safeway. So we were on the Crusher Fine, and then we went underneath. And as soon as we got to the actual dirt park, all of our tires got goat heads. And as soon as we, on the pump track. So that needs to be addressed.
That's a bummer.
Yeah, like every single one of family member. So then that's awesome. Like
Oh, yeah, walking home from there.
walking home with a 4-year-old with flat tires, not one flat tire, all of our.
And you know,
So-
it's so funny, we actually had a bike park cleanup the same week that the skate park opened to prepare for that grand opening. I am so sorry. I'll make sure they know, the crews know.
Well, and also just to point that out, one of the things that we had on this list at the top was that identify project team leader and volunteer assignments. In the last few years, there has always been a discussion, and I think we've always had a bike park cleanup, because there's always maintenance of the hills and the right slopes. And,
Right.
you know, I know that people have been out there, I think there's shovels and equipment in the box. There's a box out there with some shovels and things in it, and there was some dirt nearby. But there has been in the past, I think in the last, each of the last couple of years, there's been a, you know, community volunteer kind of cleanup day to go out and just try and you know, maintain that. Because it is dirt and it gets overrun with weeds unless it's ridden on heavily. So, and I believe there was it was Corbett, as well as, what's his name from the bike shop? There was another member of the bike shop that was actively trying to, do bike, Sonny.
Yes.
Sonny and Corbett would get like bike rides and organize bike rides, as well as cleanup of the track, pub track. So,
And again, I think if that was like sent out to the community, I mean, we've got so many Boy Scouts and we have 29 Girl Scout troops. Like there's opportunity there to work with the community to say, hey, let's clean up the bike park. It's just FYI, it needs to get cleaned up.
okay. Sorry, keep. Additional comments, please.
My down the street neighbor is the Monarch Little League president, and he recently got the plans and a copy of the quote of the batting cages that City of Boulder, or maybe the Boulder Little League, put in. I don't know the details. And Sean was going to come tonight, but he and I both traveled over the weekend, and everyone's too tired. But the one thing I did want to point out is he has like I say, the plans of a batting cage, and this is not something where you put quarters in and it pitches to you. This is like a chain link fence with a roof on it where a coach would go in and throw to batters. And the one that they put in Boulder was $10,000. So it was concrete pad and some fencing. And so I just thought it was a little bit interesting to have a little bit of a formalized plan, an idea of what something like that would cost, the space it would take, materials, all the rest of that. So Sean will come at our next meeting, public comment, and bring those materials and just present it to us, so that when we talk about batting cages, we know we're not talking $1 million, we're talking a finite amount. That's all I have on that.
Well,
I'm sorry,
go ahead.
I was just thinking, wasn't the group interested in putting them potentially between the two fields? Is there already concrete in those areas that the group was looking at?
It's 2 concrete baths and a green space in between.
It's been discussed.
Yeah.
One of the little leagues came to us a few years ago and really tried to push it. And it just didn't go anywhere. So. But if you have
to lean
plans or you have
forward.
stuff like that, that's a good way to get it going. So I think the question is, how big is it? And will it fit between the two fields? Because
Yeah, and I think he has nice drawings and plans and all that he'll present and provide to us, so then we'll have those details at our fingertip if we want to pursue something like that.
absolutely.
Okay. Well, and we can, I believe after last month, I can't remember if I typed it on the amenities list or it was already there. But I know that from last month that we had a few new amenities that I wanted to add onto the list that we'll continue to track. and at least put forth. And then I think part of it is also, if we have a champion, if there is a champion for these topics, and if they come forth and bring things to the committee, this also brings us to be able to bring that same information back to the board and pass it along, and at least let them know that there are people that really do want this.
No, it certainly is on
So-
our proposed amenities list already.
Oh, yeah, perfect. Okay. Any other? Come on. All right, so I guess I have a question then from the, who all went to sorry, I didn't make it, to the new park?
Three of us, I guess.
Three, okay. And was there any, major things that we stuck out for you? Good things that were done right or nicely, nice park?
It's actually seemed like a really nice park. I'd not been there before. I think the one thing that jumped out was really no shade at the end of the park with the
playground
equipment. But there's trees planted there. They just, are going to take 10 years to grow up and be shade. So I don't know if there's anything that people care about there. The pavilion area is nice. The tables are nice. Grills are nice. It's a really pretty well done place, I think.
Cool.
We noticed two kind of maintenance type things. One was that someone looked like they put a hot pot on one of the picnic, or on one of the tables, and like melted the top of the table. So that, I'm not sure how we could repair that. And then the other thing is, there's like a white, I don't know if it's chalk or what it is over the bricks. It seemed like it flaked off when I scraped it. I'm not sure what it is, but, or if it's hurting anything, but it's just something we noticed.
Where is that? On the brick?
The Village Green Park?
Yeah, Village Green Park, and
Right.
just, it's kind of like all over.
Where in the,
Right by the gazebo?
Yeah, on.
so on the west side?
West side. Yeah.
Yes.
See, like, here's an example. It almost looks like snow on there. I don't know if
Oh.
it's maybe like salt, maybe. Or,
It may just be a chemical,
Yeah.
some kind of road chemical or something.
I thought it was a really nice park. It had a nice sized playground. And it has a really huge pavilion with picnic tables and the grill, and yeah, that was nice. And then we drove down to what we think is going to be the green space for the rugby field.
Oh, Park 1 and 2.
Park 1 and 2. So.
We're having a hard time envisioning exactly where they were, though.
You have to go stand on top
One's
of the
on this
hill.
side of the creek
Yeah.
by the dealership, and one's on the other side of the creek by the
There seems to be a big mound where we think it is.
oh, the big mound of dirt, yeah.
Is that where it is?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then we know where it is.
Okay.
Well, actually, it's funny you mentioned that, because when we first started looking at this, before they tore up the creek and redid the creek bed, I could never see where they're gonna have enough room. Now I finally can see where they're gonna have enough room to put an 80% rugby field.
So 1E is basically pointing at, you get the Coal Creek Trail through there, but the rugby would be right in there. So you're right next to the trail, everything comes together at the end, and then the road is here and the parking garage. So it's really in that zone. There's a lot of earth moving around out there, so you don't really know exactly. And I believe the last time when they rebuilt the creek bed moved from the early park drawings, and I think it was more move it over, move it back. And I think they ended up moving the creek and readjusting the alignment slightly. So therefore, the other park is still lots of park area in here. And then the Tesla dealership or the Tesla building is here, whatever it's called. So, okay.
I can send a link out to the board. The town redid its website, so some things were a lot easier to find, but I can send a link out that's got a link to Parks 1 and 2 as they're originally envisioned. The reconfiguration of the creek kind of throws some things off, but ultimately it'll help you visualize, where things are envisioned to go.
Because it's supposed to be the parking right around where the Tesla is right now, and
Yes.
then it was a big open green, and then you hit the river, and then it's a little more natural native until you hit the roadway. But now I think everything pulls a little bit further north on that, so.
And as soon as I get, in the coming months, as soon as we have some type of updated information to show that a little better. But the creek was taken out as a separate piece and then moved over, and instead of it all being into one work item, so.
Okay.
They took a lot of space away. Because some of our original plans for Park One actually had a Little League field in it. It was too close to the road, so it got dismissed right away, because it was too close to where the bridge is gonna connect to the road. But there was actually enough space there for a Little League field, a full Little League field. So it just gives you an idea how it's definitely changed over time. So hopefully they haven't taken enough out for the rugby fields.
But all that comes along to when the bridge gets put in and when the roadway goes through and then all the development of the park, right? And do we have any idea of the bridge and when that roadway connection may actually tie?
Not yet.
Just had to ask.
Soon. Like I said, the Ranch Capital Downtown Core is supposed to come into Planning Commission at the end of the month. I don't think that includes bridge. Pretty sure it doesn't. It wasn't in the concept discussion. So it's going to follow after that.
They gotta build that bridge.
Oh yeah, it's getting worse. Although now Old Chicago left, so maybe it's, yeah.
Okay.
They picked a weird time. They survived 20 years with nothing there, and then they finally put something there where people would actually go there, and they closed. I don't understand.
That was my thought exactly too, Ron.
I mean, I never went there, so, I mean, it wasn't like it was one of our, we had a couple Christmas meetings over there, our December meetings over there, but it wasn't like a place I frequented, so. But I just find it fascinating that places close, right?
And there's a hotel across the street, or across the parking lot?
Yeah. And a hockey arena, so.
Yeah. I guess I was just curious if there were, in a couple meetings ago when we talked about community park, there was also some maintenance items. Was there any other follow-up on that?
I did talk to our parks crew about the hole in the net. Am I remembering right?
Yeah, the nets.
Yeah,
There was, that.
And I did find out that what happened was an owl got stuck in the net and they had to come, like one of those raptor groups had to come. This, you can't make it up.
Are you serious?
One of the raptor groups had to come and cut the net to save the owl. So they do have plans to get up there. They're to see how sometimes they'll sew them up, but I just wanted to pass that along.
That's very interesting.
That's what happened.
There was also playground equipment that had caution tape all around it. I'm assuming that got addressed too.
Well, when I talked to the group about that I assumed that there was a problem with a piece of equipment and we were waiting on a part, and that's exactly what it was, so.
So I have another wonderful one that I've been running lately, and the chains have little reflectors on them.
And I asked about that. That was another thing. And we have put reflectors multiple times on those chains, and they've disappeared. So I did talk to our superintendent about, trying to put another reflector on it. But I am correct in saying at dusk,
I can attest.
those areas are closed. So if it's dark and you're running with a headlamp, that technically dawn to dusk. But no, we definitely try to put those reflectors.
I have to admit, after the last meeting, I was on the phone and I didn't want to lose my phone call because I dropped after I parked across the Rock Creek Circle. And I pulled into the Rock Creek parking, and the cop was not very happy with me to pull in there after dusk. Golden Trailhead.
Yeah.
And he turned on the lights and flashed the light at me right away. And I was like, wow, sorry. But just to let you know, it does close at dusk. And we shouldn't be running at dusk.
They like sitting there because they can get a lot of speakers.
Yep.
No, he was in the back corner.
Yeah, I know that they sit there, wait for the guys to come down the hill.
Anyway, closes at dusk, but we do have reflectors for safety. Perfect. So anyway,
Over
anything
at the
else?
Village Green, did you guys count how many grills there were? How many grill spots?
Two.
Just two?
There's 4 grills, there's 2 on each end.
Oh, okay.
Is there
And they're,
four?
and they're being used.
Yeah, oh no, it was a big discussion point when we put it in. I was just kind of, they wanted, I think, 6, because their whole theory behind it was, these are gonna be all townhomes, and they need somewhere to grill, so.
Yeah, they all had some ash in them, like they've been used
Good,
somewhat
good.
recently.
On a side note, I just had a town burned down, because my neighbor did a charcoal grill, so happy to see that
They're going across the
using
street?
The charcoal grills in the proper place, not in their backyard, so.
All right, well, anything else?
When's the dog park gonna be done? You knew you weren't gonna get out of here without that question being asked.
So I think Colton is, I think it may be open today now. And so as soon as each, this is all part of the same project. And I think Colton Road was the top priority to get open. And as soon as that opened up, it should be very soon, I'm hoping.
Just wondering, for those of us.
Yeah.
We're sick of driving to the top of McCaslin to use that dog park.
Yes, I know. And part of the delays was also because of our snow and, asphalt curing has to be over a certain temperature of weather. So hopefully really, really soon.
Okay.
Maybe there's something else to that.
Are you sure? I checked out the new concrete connection to the skate park. It looks great. And, yeah. Anyway, anything else? Anyone? Please take a look at the work plan.
Can I ask one question about the Toll Brothers thing before we go?
Yeah, actually, I can give you, the 5-minute update
Yeah.
or the 15-minute update. I forgot that
We didn't put that onto the agenda item, though.
it says updates. Yeah, so the Toll Brothers got approved, and that was September 23rd. I went ahead and just sent everybody the FDP, and you'll see the names on there, and what we really need is some feedback, because Cross Pole Lane just doesn't resonate with, kind of the naming convention through town, Blackberry Bush or whatever. So, however PROSTAC wants to try to organize that and feed it back to staff, I think the Rock Ranch and Toll Brothers are amenable to whatever name suggestions the town has. As far as the budget goes, we talked about that the last PROSTAC meeting. A lot of what's in the budget, when I talked about it last month, hasn't changed, at least as it relates to PROSTAC's amenity prioritization. Prost Master Plan, the board is totally behind it, and along with a number of other things, including the American Ninja thing is in there, and that, again, is conditional on trying to get hopefully some, it's not conditional. I mean, the goal is to ultimately try to drive some sponsorship or some ways to offset the cost. But that's town staff is, I think, working through that right now. I think, and I already mentioned, the goal to try to have a joint statement on Town 15 if we can get there, or as close to that as possible. So Todd, as soon as you have a date, just let us know. And then I think we can probably just post it, the town can post it so it's an official meeting and just go with it that way. And then I think that's everything I have.
So just to clarify,
Yeah.
Coal Creek's not going through.
Yes, I glossed over all that, but the connectivity on Toll Brothers, we deviated from what the Planning Commission had recommended, and Coal Creek will dead end just north of the Lanterns Lane development, and there will be a pedestrian path that connects it onto what will be called Promenade Drive. Promenade Drive will hook and go east to 88th Street. And that's one of the budget items was, when do we build that Promenade Drive? It's in the budget for 2020 to build that piece because there's no houses on Lanterns Lane. So if you're going to run a road right behind them, do it before there's anyone living there.
How far is the budget done?
We haven't ratified it. We had a
Pickleball make it?
lengthy discussion on Monday, but it's in the budget right now. So yes, pickleball is in there. I think it's in there as it was originally scoped out 2 years ago. The issue with any budget is even though we approved the macro budget, the 40-ish million, we're still going to have, line item discussions on appropriation for certain expenditures. So, which is what happened when pickleball was in the budget 2 years ago, is it just kind of got, cast aside. And there's
we
definitely
got the skate park, so it worked out perfect.
right. Yeah, I mean, there is definitely a school of thought that, do you do the master plan first and then do the pickleball courts to make sure you got it in the right spot? Or, can you do the two in parallel just because you've talked about this spot for a really long time and you're going to presuppose that that's where it's going to end up anyways, because that's what's on everyone's head. We built Wildflower without a master plan and it's worked out okay. So it's kind of.
So are we seeing pickleball in Area 15? Is that where everyone's headed?
No.
Area
No, it's
15, no,
Autry Park.
Autry.
Oh, Autry Park, okay.
Just across the bridge is where it was originally laid
kind
out
of
2
between
years ago.
the skate park and the disc golf-y area.
Yeah, it's kind of right across the bridge.
Okay. That makes sense. There's parking there, there's amenities there.
And yeah, and right now it's still
Yep.
6 courts, although we've had plenty of asks. I mean, I can't remember which meeting, but there's been a number of folks that have asked for expanding to 20, just because the demand, in Arvada, Louisville, and elsewhere is so high, and, lots of lights and stuff like that. But for now, we're sticking to 6.
So back to the roadway access.
Yeah.
So abandoning the master plan from original, but going to, do you have access for a fire truck on a 2-lane road in Lanter's Lane? Because it looks tight to me.
Yeah, I mean,
Just
all
curious.
all the
On a
roads.
single lane,
Yeah, no,
it's not a big
every
deal.
road in town, there's on a few of the FDPs, you'll see there's a turning radius analysis to make sure the fire trucks can make it, and the fire marshal, they've looked at all the plans and they're comfortable that they can access however they need to. So the original FDP for Lanterns contemplated, there was an unknown in terms of what it was
Right.
going to do going north, so they were able to contemplate, just
They
run
laid it out first for a 2-lane road.
Yeah.
Because a single lane, you can use the widths, but when you do a 2-lane, you're supposed to stay on your side.
True enough. Yeah,
Supposed to.
Yeah, I don't know the specifics on Lanterns because it's been a year and a half, but I'm quite sure they contemplate. I mean, at the time, there's nothing that suggests that it was going to connect or when it was going to connect, so they had to design around the ability to access, those 68 homes at any point.
So the park that we'll review is actually, the road was going through, and it was off to the left. So now it can be at the end.
Yeah, so good point. So there's a Lanterns development, and then there's a little stub of a road, which is going to dead end.
Right.
And then there's going to be a pedestrian path that goes north of that, and that pedestrian path will ultimately connect to Tract H. And the park will be just kind of to the left in Tract H, to the left of what would be Coal Creek, virtual
Right.
Coal Creek going north.
That's also where the road turns and 45s are
exactly,
across
cuts out to
the,
88th.
Across the easement, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so that, the timeline on when we're going to review that's a really good question, but it's probably something we can queue. I mean, we know the general configuration. It's a half acre, and then it's ultimately a question of what amenities does PROSTAC think we need there?
And I think the amenities were shown in some concept of an amenities was shown in the original.
Yeah, I mean.
It was written down of
it was written down in like
different
pencil
things.
and like it was a sketch drawing, like some ninja boulders and stuff like that. So the tough part is going to be trying to decide within a half acre what all amenities to cram in there, because this is like the only playground for a very large chunk of space, because the only other thing nearby is Village Green, which the builder thought was plenty close enough, but it's a good solid, half to 3/4 of a mile away.
It's a tiny playground.
I would agree. So then the builder will also point out Parks 1 and 2 help to, alleviate the deficit of parks, that you would imagine for downtown Superior.
And Park 3.
Which is further.
Well, I think
people keep talking about parks. Parks is separate than playground. People are talking about, like, words matter. People are saying, what they need to say is playground, 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 because we have plenty of parks. It's, it's what you're defining that
That's absolutely
to be.
What's in the park.
Exactly.
It's the amenities within the park.
Right.
Okay.
Unless there's any questions, I think that's all I have. I mean, this isn't specific to PROSTAC, but PRO's staff has been heavily involved with the Rocky Mount Airport consultants and everything. So we had the joint meeting with Louisville last week, and the recommendations or 2 weeks ago. So that is. Is that what those were?
Yeah.
Okay. They're really low flying too.
The red ones.
Yeah.
I mean, the fire plane.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't mind those.
No.
It's just, it's the 6 a.m. propeller planes that
Saturday morning, they loop around while I sit on my deck. And I say, wait, okay, now we can talk again. Wait, now we can talk again.
What's the timeline on that Toll Brothers? Are they going to finish what they started first and then start developing Toll Brothers, or is it all going?
It's all going in parallel. I mean,
What's Toll Brothers' timeline then?
I'll send you so they laid out a phasing plan, and it's a 3 or 4 year phasing plan.
Okay. That's fine.
The townhouses first, and then they move in and start some of the homes and so on. But it's about 3 to 4 years.
So that park is probably a few years down the line?
I think we asked for it to get phased in with phase 1 or 2.
Well, you probably can't do it till after Anderson's done, right?
You want to do it before Anderson's done.
Or a while.
Well, yeah, I think.
Because of construction and
Yeah, so-
infrastructure, you want to do it before
Yeah,
they
so
get
in
finished
that,
with their
Ron, that's a perfect
mass excavation.
It's a perfect example of where, the Promenade Drive, it's in the budget for next year. I'm not a huge fan of spending money on a road that's not going to get used for 2 or 3 years by cars, but by building it behind those homes, you alleviate any noise issues, and you can get that park probably built, at the same exact time, because we know where Tract H is, and we know, Village Green was built before there was anything around it. It looked like an island, and now, it's getting heavy use because people have moved in around it.
total sidebar, but can you explain to us the reasoning of like connectivity versus non-connectivity? Because like now it's not like car-wise, it's not going to be connected, but hopefully pedestrian-wise and trail-wise it will be.
Yeah, I mean, it's a philosophical discussion with the board, in terms of where we came down on Coal Creek Drive connecting. My personal rationale for not connecting Coal Creek Drive is, even though it was in the master plan years ago, the master plan contemplated a whole lot of commercial space up there. You get fewer trips with the commercial space, you have fewer cars moving back and forth. The main issue is the builder came back, for me again, all these kids feed into Monarch High School, Monarch PK through 8. The only way they could get to that school is to drive down Coal Creek Drive, hook left on Rock Creek Parkway, and then hook a right to go up to 88th, which is a very long U-turn to make. So I wanted them to have a quicker path to at least get to Monarch. Now, because all that was designed as commercial, you're going to have fewer trips on that street. So, whether it's not connected, now we put in, 600 homes there, and with all the forecasts, it's 10 trips per day per home. So you can imagine all those cars starting to go up and down a street that hasn't had that kind of volume ever. So we would have had to put in, about $300,000 to $400,000 of enhancements on Coal Creek Drive to just slow the volume down, slow the traffic down, which, then begs the question of why not just hook it to 88th and it's, a straight shot. I mean, reality is, you want as much connectivity as possible. Ultimately, it's a finite amount of cost that you can handle relative to, what the town is obligated to do, because this is all the town's expense. The builder will only go to their property line, and after that, we have to do it. I don't know if that makes enough sense, but I can.
So are you also, if we have Promenade Drive in the budget, 88th should also be improved and widened?
Yeah, so there's.
To accommodate, because right now it's smaller than Coal Creek.
Oh, yeah.
And
there's no bike lanes and a sidewalk on one side. Yeah, no. And if anybody's paying attention, Louisville last night approved the $1.5 million incentives for Medtronic, which is the old Storage Tech, ConocoPhillips, P66 facility. It's had so many different names the last 20 years. That's about 2,000 employees for Medtronic. And then what they still have is land use application for all the residential and commercial development to surround that. What Louisville wants 88 to look like, to me, is a little murky relative to what we're thinking. We've got $3 million in the budget right now, and that includes $1 million that would come from Zaharias. And if Zaharias comes through, it's a 4-lane road with $1 million coming from Zaharias. If that doesn't come through, it's a $2 million expense to just keep it 2 lanes, add bike lanes, shoulders, and actual sidewalks on the west side.
Right.
So, we're looking at a $2 to $3 million investment on 88th in 2020, along with, $1.3 million for the Promenade western connection to ultimately downtown Superior. I think that's right.
So you brought it up. I have to ask, did Louisville get a connection to the east out of Monarch?
So,
Or anything going east?
Yeah, I mean,
Because that's the bottleneck
no, and
over
I
there.
think that is part of the, yeah, I mean, anybody who's had to leave Monarch in an evening, it's like leaving a concert. You know, it's just,
It's a parking lot.
you go, no, you go, no, you go, no, you go.
At 9
Yeah.
o'clock, it's 88th is a parking lot.
So it's been a huge issue for BVSD. I don't think BVSD would have built the school if the street didn't go through it from the very beginning. So they're fully in support with moving forward with all the development because the developer at Brew Bracol, I forget their name, they're committed to connecting it to 96th because they want as much connectivity as possible. And connecting to 96 is a huge, benefit to them because you're getting a lot of the commercial traffic in from Broomfield.
Right.
But the timing of all that is, TBD.
Always.
Yeah. So, but Louisville did at least approve the 1.5 for Medtronic, but, Medtronic's still in the deciding phase, and who knows when that'll happen.
Awesome.
But if you have any questions about 88, I mean, we have a standing quarterly joint issues meeting between Louisville and Superior that's actually going to be this Friday morning in here. I don't think 88th is on the agenda, but it's one that we're going to bring up because the other open here is the Campus Drive connection, which is, for anybody that's not aware of it, there's a bike bridge that goes over 36. Campus Drive is sort of the western extension of the street by Monarch that would go over the highway right by the hospital and then connect into downtown Superior. I think we all want it. The problem is CDOT would never pay $1 for it because we have bridges at McCaslin and 88th, so it would be on the back of Superior and Louisville to pay for basically an $8 million bridge, which it'd be neat to have, but I don't know where we find $8 million or even half of that to facilitate it.
That's another deal where you wait for them to widen the turnpike again, and that's when they.
That's when they can do
Again?
it.
Which could, it'll happen.
And for them to put a train on it? Sure.
Train on it, and don't forget the exit at 96th, so.
I think the exit at 96
Or
is
88th, I mean, sorry.
yeah, CDOT has said that they don't want to do that.
But that was 10
88.
years ago when they
Fair
said
enough.
they didn't want it. Now,
Yeah.
if you got, just saying,
Yeah.
who knows what's gonna happen next, so.
And then add in that the Northwest Parkway extension and
Yeah, the one that was died, now it's back again. So,
on and off.
All right, well,
good stuff.
meeting adjourned. Thank you.